G'day everyone, welcome to the Opal Mills. Today we've got a fine example of some honey jelly crystal sort of, not sure what to call this one. Some really nice flash and colour in amongst it though, it's very bright. And this was found by a mining couple just a bit south from where I am from what I understand. And that's good signs. I caught up with them just before last trip and they were asking if I could carve this, as it's a unique piece. Could cut a stone, but they'd be a bit lost, and I think it's one of their first finds. So we're going to carve this, and probably be a quick carving. We'll come back every so often and I'll share updates and that. Maybe go through a couple of the stages that people have been asking me some questions about, like the polish and how I go about getting a finish on these. So get a coffee. This shouldn't take too long for you guys, but I'll be spending the day or so doing this and see how it turns out. We're going to start off with this 600 grit mushroom burr, and I'll try and avoid putting little cavities in. If I can get away with doing this, it makes it easier to smooth it out. It gets a pretty good curve on it if needed. Put a little divot in, a bit of a broader one. Hopefully it's a good angle for you guys. We're working like this. So in here there is some black sand, but that's deep enough, that piece, that we're going to try and go over the top of, and we'll see about some of this other stuff when we get down to it. So I'm going to narrate a little bit during this. I found out I can watch this through editing and chit chat. So to start with, when I'm getting into this, the first thing I'm doing is picking a spot and just cleaning up the whole entire portion of that surface, taking it down as far as needed depending on how deep the dirt goes. If I think it's superficial, I'll take it out. If not, it got trapped in. So once you start that first patch and you've got it nice and clean, you pick a direction to go to. Since the whole entire stone surface has to be covered, it's like a ball really. You got to turn it all the way around every direction. Odd shaped ball. It's not easy to figure out which way to go sometimes, because it takes you in all different directions, but it's best if you can just say start with the top, go around the sides, then finish the bottom. The irregular shape on the surface isn't an issue. That's what's going to create the sort of organic look. And I've started with a 600 grit, as I've already said. This is it's plenty to get the surface down, and I don't want to have to get the marks out with the 600 later. And so as you can see, it sort of makes pretty short work of it. So I'm going around the sides. So I've done all the top. I'll get all the sides, having them meet up to the top. I'm not being too fussy about blending yet, and by that I mean making one undulation smoothly transition up over any, roll everything out. Otherwise there's sort of a peak edge. Sometimes even though it's a round burr, it causes peaks where the two scoops meet, sort of thing. And so I'm not really worried about that. That's, like I said, going to give it the organic look. It's going to give it its own natural look. Here I'm just checking to make sure that I've got everything out that I want out. adjusting the light. And most of that sand, I'm pretty sure there's only a couple of spots I continue to get out. The rest of it stayed there. Oh, I'm doing this upside down. That's one spot that hasn't been touched yet, since it still looks like that. There's no grip marks over there. And as you can see, there's lots of those white spots and marks highlight. Sorry, the white dust highlights the marks. So what I'm going to do, anyway, next is I don't have to worry about putting holes in it. I'm just going to use the broad edge to smooth this out further. The mushroom's not the very best for controlling. I'll get a better result with this. It's a lot more smoothed out now. Put my dust mask on. Putting all our marks up to the ones we want. So there's no extra grooves or rough facety sort of shapes. That's only 600, so we've got to go through to 1200 yet, so we'll get on with this. Might go back to 400 at the moment on sandpaper. So we're going to be using this bit. We'll come back. Okay, so I've been mucking around with a few different methods, and I found out with such easy sloping scoops rather than craters that this responded quite well to cork block. So I'm doing this with the cork block. It's coming up quite well. And just to show you the bottom, I haven't done yet. You can see it's not very shiny, it's very matte finish. So I'm going to go around with that and just show you cork block. I used to use this cork block method quite a bit before I had machines, and I wanted to get back into opal cutting, and I had dop sticks, wax, and a polishing wheel, but no cutting wheel. So I dop the stones up and use the Dremel to cut, just shape them up. Once I was happy with that, I'd get out cork block, 400, 800, 1200 grit, and then onto my leather wheel. So I actually quite enjoy doing this method. It's quite satisfying doing it by hand, and you actually get a really good result too. You know, it's just move the grit around. I don't care how you do it, just move it around. Once it moves around and a bit of pressure on top of it, it grinds. Once you're grinding, you're doing it. That's it. It doesn't matter what you use, what method. It's all about the grit and grinding it into working what you want to work. Okay. See, it's got a bit more of a reflective surface now. I haven't smoothed this side like I have this side. That's the back. That's probably going to stay like that now. I'll continue through the grits on this side. I'm going to do 800 next. Come back. Starting to look the part. So that's the 800. Now I'm going to go to 1200 and then we'll do the cerium. Alright, so there we are, all polished up. No, that's the 1200. So we're at the 1200 and I'm about to do the polish, so I'll get set up and I'll show you again how I go about it. So I've got these Dremel bits that usually take a felt wheel. You screw these on to replace them. But I've just used one, screwed it into a bit of dowel, and then spun it on the Dremel up against the sand disc and gave it a bit of a shape. I did cut some slots into it thinking that would help hold some grit in, and that didn't last long. But it's hardening. I don't know if I need to replace it, but it's working quite well still. So anyway, I'm going to load them up into the Dremel. Like so. And here we got pure 98.9% pure cerium oxide. Anything else is anything less. So that and water is the best for silica opal. So a little bit of water, a little bit of powder. Let's zoom out a little touch. There we go. So just get the stone a little bit wet. I'll get a bit of the cerium oxide on my finger and just sort of smear it all over the stone, work it in. Camera's not exactly pointing in the right direction properly here, but you'll see enough, I hope. So yeah, it's just keep it slightly wet. You don't want it too wet or it washes off the cerium. I usually curve a finger over to capture some of it, that way you can work the bit onto your finger and get the cerium back down on the stone. And just, yeah, now and then I dip my finger in the water. If I need a bit more water, just a couple of drops is enough. Keep it wet for the most part, and right at the last moment it'll dry out pretty quickly on you with the burst spinning. But when I finished, it'll dry out and it'll just fly off as dust, so it's best to wear a mask in this stage as well. And you'll see if it's polished enough. Usually I see it polished, but I just keep going and going and going until I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's polished. So it does take a little while, and especially using a burr, it's just a pinpoint almost contact, but it's the best way to get all those curves, and I like the finish it gets. I haven't got any felt or leather bits that can do this job any easier, so this is the easiest way I found, and it works for all my carvings. So yeah, just a wooden dowel and a Dremel bit. Very cheap. Okay. So there we go. Quite pleased with the way that's turned out. I guess sit down over here and have a look at it. So here we have it, all finished up. It looks much better in person. It's a bit more translucency to the surface. This is showing a bit milky. That is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. It's a nice size piece too. I might weigh that after. So there we go. That's how I go about getting the polish. Hope you enjoyed. Put some low light at the end of this. Cheers.